The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly around the U.S. Hippocrates, a gleaming medical research vessel that looked more like a floating hospital than a spaceship. Its smooth white hull reflected the distant starlight, a beacon of hope in the infinite cosmic wilderness. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display. Something had caught her attention, a faint electromagnetic signature that didn't match any standard space debris. Most crew members would have ignored it, but Elena had learned long ago that, in space, anomalies told stories. "Enhance Quadrant 7 Delta," she commanded, her voice calm but sharp. The ship's advanced scanning system zoomed in, revealing a tiny object tumbling slowly against the black backdrop. It was an escape pod, but unlike any human design. Its exterior was covered in strange, iridescent markings that seemed to shimmer and change color, even in the harsh light of the ship's scanners. "Life signs?" Elena asked, turning to her senior medical technician, Jack Harper. Jack's fingers danced across the holographic controls. His face went pale. "Barely. It's not human. Definitely organic, but the readings are completely foreign. Vital signs are critically low. Multiple organ failure imminent." The escape pod was small, barely large enough to contain a single occupant. As they brought it into the medical bay's containment area, the crew watched in tense silence. The pod's outer shell seemed to be made of a material that was part metal, part something else, organic yet technological. With careful precision, Elena and her team used specialized cutting tools designed for unknown materials. The pod's seal hissed, then slowly opened. Inside lay a being that looked almost like a humanoid, but distinctly alien. Her skin was a pale lavender, with intricate, almost luminescent patterns that seemed to pulse with a soft inner light. Multiple thin, translucent tendrils emerged from her back, now limp and barely moving. Her breathing was ragged, each breath a struggle against some unseen internal collapse. "Her respiratory system is completely different," Elena muttered, running a handheld scanner over the alien's body. "Multiple organ systems are shutting down, but not in any pattern I've ever seen." Jack leaned in, his curiosity overriding his initial fear. "Those tendrils, they look like they're part of her circulatory or perhaps neurological system. They're not just decorative." The alien's eyes flickered open, large, deep purple with no visible pupils. For a moment, she looked directly at Elena. In that single glance, there was recognition, pain, and something else. A desperate hope. "She knows she's dying," Elena whispered, "and she knows we might be her only chance." The medical team sprang into action. This was more than a routine rescue. This was a first contact scenario, mixed with a medical emergency of unprecedented complexity. They would need to throw out every standard medical protocol and improvise. Elena knew they were facing a challenge that could define humanity's approach to space exploration. Would they rise to the occasion, or would this alien life form become just another unexplained loss in the vast cosmic record? The next few hours would determine everything. The medical bay hummed with the soft beeping of advanced equipment. Dr. Elena Rodriguez carefully studied the holographic displays, showing the alien's complex biological structure. Each scan revealed another layer of bewildering complexity that challenged everything humans knew about life in the universe. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Michael Chen, the team's lead xenobiologist, staring at the intricate genetic patterns dancing across the screen. "Her cellular structure is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's like her entire biological system is both a single organism and multiple interconnected systems." The alien, whom they had temporarily named Kira based on the soft sound she had made when first regaining consciousness, lay on a specialized medical bed that adjusted constantly to her unique physiological needs. Her lavender skin continued to pulse with those strange, luminescent patterns that seemed to change with her vital signs. Jack Harper brought up the initial data they had recovered from the escape pod's limited computer systems. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a series of fragmented star charts and data logs. "Her civilization. It's dying. completely dying. Elena leaned in closer. The data painted a grim picture of a species on the brink of extinction. Kira's home system orbited a star that was rapidly deteriorating, releasing massive amounts of radiation that was systematically destroying her species' genetic integrity. Each generation became weaker, less stable, more prone to catastrophic cellular breakdown. She's not just a survivor, Elena realized. She's potentially the last of a genetic line that's been fighting extinction for generations. The medical team worked in shifts, each taking turns to study Kira's remarkable biology. Her body contained multiple redundant systems that seemed designed to combat extreme environmental challenges. Where human bodies would fail, her systems had multiple backup mechanisms. Most intriguing were the thin, translucent tendrils that emerged from her back. Initial scans suggested they were far more than simple appendages. They appeared to be a complex network of biological sensors and communication systems, allowing her to process environmental information in ways humans could barely comprehend. These tendrils, Dr. Chen explained during a team briefing, they're not just sensory organs. They're like a living communication network. Each one can potentially store and transmit genetic information, adapt to environmental changes, and even perform emergency cellular repairs. Kira's body was a testament to evolutionary adaptation, pushed to its absolute limit. Her species had developed biological technologies so advanced that the line between organic life and technological system had completely blurred. As hours turned into days, the human medical team made breakthrough after breakthrough. They developed new medical techniques just to keep Kira stable, learning from her body's remarkable self-preservation mechanisms. Each discovery was a potential revolution in medical science. We're not just treating a patient, Elena told her team. We're learning an entirely new language of life. The ship's computer worked constantly, translating fragments of data from Kira's escape pod. Slowly, a picture emerged of a dying civilization that had sent out multiple escape pods, genetic repositories carrying the last hope of their species. Kira was more than just a survivor. She was a living library, carrying the genetic memory of an entire civilization. Jack looked at Elena, a mix of excitement and apprehension in his eyes. What if we can do more than just save her? What if we can help save her entire species? The question hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. They were standing at the precipice of something unprecedented, a chance to not just observe alien life, but potentially preserve it. Outside the medical bay's reinforced windows, the infinite darkness of space continued its silent watch, holding secrets far beyond human imagination. 2 weeks after her rescue, Kira began to understand human language. Her recovery was nothing short of miraculous, with her alien body slowly adapting to the medical treatments that should have been incompatible with her biology. Dr. Elena Rodriguez spent most of her time near Kira's specialized medical chamber. The alien's large purple eyes would follow Elena's every movement, filled with an intensity that spoke volumes beyond words. Something was happening, a connection that transcended species and medical science. Jack Harper noticed it first. "She's learning faster than any patient we've ever seen," he told Elena one evening. "It's like her brain is literally rewiring itself to understand us." The ship's linguistic computer worked overtime, translating the fragments of communication. Kira's native language was complex, a mix of electromagnetic pulses, color changes, and subtle body movements that humans could barely comprehend. But she was determined to communicate. "Survival. Different here," Kira said one day, her first complete sentence in human language. The words were halting, but clear. Elena leaned closer. "What do you mean?" Kira's tendrils, those strange, translucent appendages, shifted in a pattern that the ship's computer translated as deep emotional complexity. "In my world, weak dies. No rescue. No care." Her lavender skin rippled with what seemed like a mixture of confusion and wonder. The human medical team realized something profound. Kira came from a society where individual survival was paramount. The concept of risking everything to save a stranger, especially a dying, potentially useless member of their species, was completely alien to her. "We don't leave anyone behind," Alina explained, not just with words but with a gentle touch on Kira's hand. The human gesture seemed to confuse the alien even more. Days passed, and Kira's strength grew. She learned about human culture through endless conversations with the medical team. They shared stories of rescue missions, of humanitarian efforts, of times when humans had gone to extraordinary lengths to save complete strangers. Jack told her about rescue teams that would risk everything to save a single trapped miners. Alina shared stories of medical missions to war-torn regions, where doctors worked under impossible conditions to save lives. Slowly, Kira began to understand something fundamentally different about human nature. "Your species, illogical," she said one day. "Inefficient, dangerous." But there was no criticism in her voice. Instead, there was a growing sense of something like respect. The ship's crew watched this remarkable transformation. Kira was not just recovering. She was learning. Her body continued to heal in ways that defied medical understanding. The translucent tendrils that once hung limply now moved with purpose, exploring, understanding. Dr. Chen discovered something extraordinary during one of his routine scans. Kira's genetic structure was actually changing, not just healing, but actively incorporating elements of the medical treatments. It was as if her body was learning, adapting in real time to her new environment and the humans around her. "She's not just surviving," Dr. Chen told Alina. "She's evolving." As weeks passed, Kira's chambers became less of a medical space and more of a communication hub. She would ask questions about human emotions, about the concept of compassion, about why humans would risk everything for someone who might never be able to return the favor. The infinite darkness of space continued to surround the U.S. hypocrites, a silent witness to this unprecedented encounter between two species. Something was happening, something that went far beyond a medical rescue. Kira was learning that survival wasn't just about individual preservation. It was about something much more complex, much more beautiful. The medical bay was silent except for the soft beeping of advanced scanning equipment. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stared at the holographic display, her hands trembling slightly. She blinked twice, convinced she was seeing something impossible. "Jack," she called, her voice unnaturally calm. "You need to see this." Jack Harper rushed over, his eyes widening as he studied the genetic sequence dancing across the screen. The data was unprecedented, a biological miracle that defied every known law of interspecies reproduction. Kira was pregnant. Not just pregnant, but carrying a genetic hybrid that combined both human and Silurian biological systems in a way that should have been completely impossible. The medical team had been so focused on saving her life that they hadn't noticed the most extraordinary transformation happening within her body. "This is beyond medical science," Dr. Michael Chen muttered, running multiple confirmation scans. "Her cellular structure has been fundamentally altered by the medical treatments. The genetic fusion isn't just a random occurrence, it's a deliberate biological response." Kira herself seemed unaware of the changes happening inside her body. Her lavender skin continued to pulse with those strange, luminescent patterns, now showing more complex rhythms that suggested something profound was occurring. The initial genetic analysis revealed layers of complexity that left the medical team speechless. The hybrid embryo carried genetic markers from both species, but it was more than a simple combination. It was a completely new form of biological existence. "Look at this," Dr. Chen pointed to a specific genetic sequence. "These are adaptive markers that don't exist in either human or Silurian DNA. It's like the embryo is actively designing its own genetic blueprint." Alina felt a mix of scientific excitement and deep ethical concern. They were witnessing something unprecedented, the potential birth of an entirely new form of life. A life that had been created not through traditional reproduction, but through an extraordinary medical intervention. The ship's communication systems began to light up. Somehow, news of this genetic miracle was spreading through galactic communication networks. The medical team knew they were standing at the edge of something that could change everything humans understood about life, reproduction, and biological adaptation. Kira's reaction was perhaps the most surprising. When Alina carefully explained the situation, the alien's response was not what anyone expected. Survival, Kira said, her large purple eyes showing a mix of confusion and something that might have been wonder. My species, dying. This is hope. The medical team exchanged glances. The pregnancy wasn't just a biological accident. For Kira's dying civilization, this could be their last chance at genetic continuation. The hybrid child represented more than just a medical marvel. It was potentially the salvation of an entire species. Ethical debates erupted within the ship's crew. What did this mean for human-alien relations? What responsibilities did they now have? The child would be neither fully human nor fully Xyloran, a completely new form of sentient life. Dr. Chen's further research revealed even more shocking details. The hybrid's genetic structure suggested extraordinary capabilities, enhanced healing abilities, advanced cognitive potential, and biological systems that could adapt to environments that would kill both humans and Xylorans. We're not just looking at a pregnancy, Alina realized. We're looking at the next stage of evolutionary development. Outside the medical bay's reinforced windows, the infinite darkness of space seemed to hold its breath. Something extraordinary was happening. A biological miracle that could rewrite everything known about life, reproduction, and the potential of different species. The U.S. Hippocrates continued its silent journey, carrying within its hull a secret that could change the universe forever. The news spread faster than light itself through the galactic communication networks. A hybrid child, born from a human medical intervention and an alien species on the brink of extinction, represented something more than a medical miracle. It was a political earthquake that would shake the foundations of interstellar civilization. On the U.S. Hippocrates, the communication room buzzed with incoming transmissions from hundreds of different alien civilizations. Some messages expressed scientific curiosity. Others communicated pure fear. A few radiated open hostility. The Zornak Confederation, a powerful alliance of silicon-based life forms, sent their first transmission. This genetic fusion is a violation of fundamental biological protocols. Their message read, translated by the ship's advanced communication systems. The hybrid represents an unpredictable genetic anomaly that threatens established species boundaries. Dr. Elena Rodriguez listened to the messages, her face a mask of professional calm. But inside, she understood the magnitude of what was happening. This wasn't just about a pregnancy. This was about challenging every existing concept of life and reproduction in the known universe. Jack Harper monitored the incoming communications, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. We're getting mixed responses, he reported. Some scientific communities are fascinated. The Quantum Collective wants detailed genetic data, but the military-based civilizations, they're preparing defensive protocols. Kira sat nearby, her lavender skin pulsing with complex patterns that seemed to reflect her internal emotional state. She didn't fully understand the political storm brewing around her, but she sensed its intensity. The Xyloran Remnant Council, the last governing body of her dying species, sent a particularly complex transmission. Their message was a mix of hope and deep concern. They saw the hybrid child as potentially the last genetic repository of their civilization, but also as an unknown quantity that could either save or destroy their remaining genetic legacy. This child, the Xyloran transmission read, carries the potential to either resurrect our entire species or introduce a genetic mutation that could cause our final extinction. Dr. Michael Chen worked tirelessly, analyzing every incoming transmission, every pieces of data. The hybrid's genetic structure was unprecedented. It showed adaptability far beyond what any single species had ever demonstrated. The child's genetic markers, he told Alina, suggest capabilities that could revolutionize understanding of biological adaptation. Enhanced healing, potential multi-environmental survival capabilities, and cognitive potential that crosses traditional species limitations. Military communication networks began to light up. Some alien civilizations saw the hybrid as a potential biological weapon. Others viewed it as a threat to their established genetic hierarchies. The U.S. Hippocrates found itself at the center of a potential interstellar conflict. The human crew remained calm, but they understood the stakes. This wasn't just about protecting Kira and her unborn child. This was about defending a fundamental principle of exploration and compassion. "We saved a life," Elena told her team. "We're not going to stop protecting that life now." Kira listened, her large purple eyes absorbing everything. She was learning about human determination, about a species that would stand against entire galactic powers to protect a single life. The ship's defensive systems were activated, not as an aggressive measure, but as a protective shield. The U.S. Hippocrates was no longer just a medical research vessel. It had become a sanctuary, a last line of defense for something entirely new. Outside the ship's reinforced windows, distant stars seemed to watch. Something extraordinary was happening. A new chapter in galactic evolution was about to be written. And it all started with a simple act of compassion. The medical lab glowed with an ethereal light as advanced scanning equipment mapped the hybrid child's extraordinary genetic structure. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Dr. Michael Chen stood side by side, their faces a mixture of scientific excitement and profound wonder. "This is beyond anything we've ever seen," Dr. Chen whispered, his hands moving across holographic displays that showed layers of genetic complexity most scientists would have considered impossible. The hybrid's genetic makeup was a living puzzle. It combined the adaptability of human DNA with the advanced biological systems of the Xyloran species. Each scan revealed capabilities that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of biological development. Kira watched from her specialized medical chamber, her lavender skin pulsing with intricate patterns that seemed to respond to the genetic revelations. Her large purple eyes followed every movement, every subtle change in the medical team's expressions. The most remarkable discovery was the child's cellular regeneration potential. Where human cells would typically show signs of damage or aging, these hybrid cells demonstrated an almost infinite capacity for repair and adaptation. A single cell could potentially heal multiple types of genetic damage, adjust to extreme environmental conditions, and rapidly evolve defensive mechanisms. Jack Harper brought up comparative genetic models. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a complex genetic sequence. "The child's immune system isn't just defensive. It's predictive. It can actually anticipate and prepare for potential genetic threats before they occur." Dr. Chen's analysis revealed even more extraordinary details. The hybrid's neural network suggested cognitive capabilities that went far beyond traditional understanding. It wasn't just about intelligence. It was about a fundamentally different way of processing information, of understanding the world. "Imagine a being," Elena explained to the team, "that can simultaneously process multiple types of information, adapt to different environments instantaneously, and potentially communicate in ways we can't even comprehend." The Quantum Collective, an advanced scientific alliance of multiple alien species, began sending specialized research requests. They recognized that this hybrid represented more than just a medical marvel. It was a potential key to understanding biological adaptation at its most fundamental level. Kira's own biological changes continued to surprise the medical team. Her body was adapting alongside the child, creating a symbiotic relationship that went beyond traditional mother-child connections. Her translucent tendrils now showed complex communication patterns that seemed to be directly linked to the child's genetic development. "She's not just carrying the child," Dr. Chen realized. "They're evolving together, simultaneously." The genetic potential seemed almost limitless. The hybrid could potentially survive in environments that would kill most known life forms. Extreme temperatures, radiation levels, atmospheric conditions, none of these seemed to pose a challenge to this new form of life. Military communication networks began to show increased activity. Some saw the hybrid as a potential biological breakthrough. Others saw it as a threat, a life form that could potentially render existing species obsolete. But in the quiet of the medical bay, the scientific team saw something else. They saw hope. They saw the potential for understanding life in its most fundamental form. They saw a bridge between species that had previously been considered completely incompatible. Jack looked at Alina, a mix of excitement and apprehension in his eyes. "We're not just dealing with a pregnancy," he said. "We're witnessing the birth of a new type of existence." Kira's large purple eyes seemed to understand something profound. Her species had been dying, facing total extinction. And now, through an unexpected twist of medical intervention and biological miracle, they had found a way to continue. Outside the ship's windows, the vast darkness of space continued its silent watch. Something extraordinary was developing, a new chapter in the understanding of life itself. And it all started with a simple act of compassion. The first attack came without warning. Massive alien battleships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the U.S. Hippocrates like predators circling vulnerable prey. These were ships from the Zornak Confederation, silicon-based life forms known for their ruthless approach to potential genetic threats. "Incoming transmission," Jack Harper called out, his fingers flying across the communication systems. The holographic display flickered, revealing a crystalline figure. The commander of the Zornak fleet. "Human vessel," the transmission crackled. "You harbor a genetic anomaly that threatens galactic stability. Surrender the hybrid subject and the alien female, or be destroyed." Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood calm, her hand resting protectively near Kira's medical chamber. The alien female's lavender skin pulsed with an intense, almost defensive pattern. The unborn hybrid within her seemed to respond, creating subtle electromagnetic disturbances that made the ship's equipment fluctuate. "We do not negotiate the safety of innocent lives," Elena responded, her voice steady and clear. The ship's defensive systems came to life. Humanity had learned much about space warfare, and the U.S. Hippocrates was no ordinary medical vessel. Quantum shield generators hummed to life, creating a protective barrier that shimmered with complex energy patterns. The first wave of attacks came quickly. Plasma-based weapons that could slice through most ship hulls like paper hit the Hippocrates shields. But instead of breaking through, they dissipated in spectacular displays of light and energy. Dr. Michael Chen watched in amazement. The ship's defensive systems were adapting, not just blocking, but learning from each attack. It was almost as if the ship's technology was evolving in real time, much like the hybrid child growing within Kira. "They're using our own technological principle against them," Jack muttered. Adaptive defense. The Zornak ships launched multiple attack vectors: quantum torpedoes, molecular disruptors, gravitational weapons, each designed to break through the most advanced defensive systems. But the U.S. Hippocrates continued to hold. Kira watched the battle, her large purple eyes showing a mix of confusion and something deeper. She was learning about human determination, about a species that would fight to protect life, even at enormous risk to themselves. "Your species," she said to Elena, "fights for more than survival. You fight for principle." The battle raged for hours. Other alien civilizations watched through long-range sensors. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, but they showed no signs of surrender. Each attack was met with not just defense, but a calculated response that seemed to anticipate the enemy's next move. Quantum communication networks lit up. The Quantum Collective, initially neutral, began sending support signals. They recognized something extraordinary was happening. This wasn't just a battle. This was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to conflict. The hybrid child within Kira seemed to react to the battle. Electromagnetic pulses from the medical chamber created subtle interference with the attacking ship's systems. It was almost as if the unborn child was contributing to the ship's defense. The hybrid, Dr. Chen realized, is actively participating in the ship's defensive strategy. As the battle continued, the U.S. Hippocrates began to turn the tide. What should have been a simple destruction became a complex dance of technological adaptation. Human ships were proving something profound. that innovation, compassion, and determination could be the most powerful weapons in the universe. The Zornak commander's crystalline form began to show signs of confusion. These humans were not just defending. They were demonstrating a level of technological and strategic adaptation that went beyond traditional warfare. Outside the ship's windows, space itself seemed to hold its breath. A small medical vessel was standing against an entire military confederation, and winning. And it all started with a simple act of saving a single life. The medical bay was silent except for the soft, rhythmic pulses of advanced equipment. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside Kira, holding her hand as the most extraordinary birth in galactic history began to unfold. Days after the battle with the Zornak Confederation, the hybrid child was ready to enter the universe. Dr. Michael Chen and Jack Harper prepared specialized medical equipment that could handle the unprecedented genetic complexity of the birth. Kira's lavender skin glowed with an intensity that seemed to fill the entire medical bay. Her large purple eyes reflected a mix of fear, wonder, and something deeper, hope for her dying species. "Your people survive," she whispered to Elena, "through this child." The birth was nothing like human or Xylaran medical records had ever documented. As the child emerged, electromagnetic pulses danced around the medical chamber. The ship's advanced systems seemed to respond, creating a protective field that pulsed in harmony with the child's emerging life force. The hybrid was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Skin that shifted between lavender and a soft human tone. Translucent tendrils that moved with purpose. Eyes that seemed to change color based on its emotional state. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was hope incarnate. Dr. Chen's initial scans revealed extraordinary details. The child carried genetic markers from both species, but it was more than a simple combination. It was a completely new form of biological existence, a living bridge between two civilizations. Adaptive potential beyond anything we've ever imagined, Dr. Chen muttered, studying the holographic genetic display. Each cell is a complete biological system, capable of instant adaptation. The Quantum Collective's communication channels lit up with excitement. Scientific teams from multiple alien civilizations requested data, hoping to understand this unprecedented genetic miracle. Jack Harper managed the incoming communications. "They're calling it the most significant biological event in recorded galactic history," he told Elena. Kira watched her child with an intensity that transcended species. The last survivor of a dying civilization now held the potential future of her entire race. The translucent tendrils that had once been a sign of her species' impending extinction now moved with a new purpose around the child. The U.S. Hippocrates became more than a medical vessel. It transformed into a sanctuary, a place where a new form of life would take its first breaths, where the impossible became reality. Representatives from the Xylaran Remnant Council appeared via holographic transmission. Their crystalline forms showed emotions rarely seen in their species: hope, wonder, and something close to joy. "The child represents more than survival," their lead representative said. "It represents evolution." Elena understood the profound significance of this moment. What had started as a simple medical rescue had become something far greater. A demonstration that compassion could transcend species, that life found a way to continue even in the most impossible circumstances. The hybrid child opened its eyes, a swirling mix of human brown and Xylaran purple. Those eyes seemed to hold entire universes of potential. Outside the ship's windows, distant stars seemed to watch. A new chapter in galactic evolution was beginning. Jack looked at Elena, understanding passing between them. They had done more than save a life. They had created a bridge between species, a living testament to the power of compassion. Kira's hand gently touched her child. "We survive," she whispered, "not just as individuals, but as something entirely new." The U.S. Hippocrates continued its journey through the infinite darkness of space, carrying within its hull a promise of hope, of survival, of something beautifully impossible. And it all started with a simple act of saving a single life.